Hello and welcome to SpinOff Games, where we talk about all the weird forgotten games that happen to fall off the family trees of other much more successful media franchises. Sonic. No matter who you are, you've heard of the blue blur, Sonic the Hedgehog. And whether you love him or hate him, we can all agree on one thing. His games are hit or miss. This particular game seems to fall somewhere in between the hit and miss categories. In case you're one of the 3 people who's never heard of Sonic the Hedgehog, let me catch you up. Sonic is a blue hedgehog who runs really fast. Originally created as Sega's answer to Mario, Sonic's attitude and spectacular gameplay led to his massive popularity. And during the early 90s, Sonic could do no wrong. Then he hit a bit of a wall during the early 2000s while trying to transcend his 2D games into the world of 3D gaming, and never really regained his footing. Though he had some popular titles at the time, none ever hit the popularity that his original 2D titles did. Sadly for the Blue Blur, things were only going to get rockier with the release of another game in 2006. Thankfully, that's not the game we're going to be talking about today, and instead we'll hit on another 2006 Sonic release, Sonic Riders for the PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox. Sonic Riders, unlike other Sonic games, is a racing game in the vein of Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing. Though Sonic Riders wasn't Sonic's first or last attempt at a racing game, I think it's probably the most enjoyable. Opposed to its predecessor, Sonic R, this game actually takes all of the characters off of their feet and puts them on hoverboards, which is simultaneously one of the most amazing and horribly lame ideas to ever come out of the series. On one hand, the hoverboards are called Extreme Gears, and they give every character a reason for being able to keep up with Sonic in a race. On the other hand, the Extreme Gear is clearly being used to up Sonic's edge factor, along with some other new accessories that came out of nowhere, like sunglasses and goggles, and they're just edgy tech skateboards. This was a move that I'm pretty sure came out of the 90s trying their hardest to die, while the 2000s just wanted to be their own kind of edgy. Speaking of edgy, let's talk about the totally not X Games style story that came with the game. The game starts with Sonic and friends looking for the Chaos Emeralds, as they do, only to be nearly run over by a group of totally not our villains, the Babylon Rogues, a bunch of birds who have stolen, guess what? A Chaos Emerald. Thanks to Knuckles' quick thinking, or over-eagerness to punch anything that approaches him, Sonic kicks one of their boards and races after the leader of the group, instead of just running after him, for some reason. The leader of the group, Jet the Hawk, manages to get away and makes Sonic feel bad or happy or... I'm really not sure what we're supposed to be feeling here, Sonic. Almost immediately after, it turns out that Dr. Eggman is holding the X World Grand Prix, a series of races to win the Chaos Emeralds. Turns out the Babylon Rogues are already in the competition, and I guess that fires Sonic up into joining. After several races, Sonic and his friends manage to make their way to the final round, and just when Sonic is about to win the race, Jet cheats. Who would have guessed? Jet then uses the Tesseract from the MCU to race a city from under the desert they were racing in. Then, who would have guessed, Eggman steals the Tesseract and heads towards the floating city, where Sonic and Jet have one last race so that Sonic can prove that he's the fastest and catch Eggman. Sonic wins and just hands over the Tesseract before Amy Rose chases him in a circle, and the story ends. Well, one story ends. Upon completing the hero's story, you gain access to a second story, told through the Babylon Rogue's point of view. You learn a few new things here and there about how the Tesseract is actually a key for unlocking a treasure inside of that floating city, which is called Babylon Garden, and how they figured Eggman would double-cross them eventually, and how they still weren't prepared for it. turns out the treasure inside of the floating garden was guarded by a djinn, and it's just a magic carpet that you can, oddly enough, use as a new extreme gear in free play. Also, the Babylon rogues are descended from genies? What? After beating both stories, you're rewarded with new characters and new types of extreme gears, specifically skates and bikes. Along with the new player options, you get a series of missions that you can play in order to earn money to use in the shop to unlock even more new racers and more boards. From here on out, if you plan on completing the game, it's going to be a lot of the same. So at this point, you've probably got a few questions about the gameplay itself. Like, is it good? Is there any point to the different characters? And is this thing worth completing? The gameplay for the game is pretty standard. You wait for the timer, hold forward on your stick, you can jump, you can boost, you can drift with the bumpers, although I would highly recommend practicing with the drifting, because even after beating both story modes and participating in free play modes, I have no idea how to get it to do what I want. Also, like most racing games, it is a fairly wide roster of characters, supporting the main cast, the new Babylon rogues, and a few returning, and some guest characters. As you can see from this screen, I don't have the guests all unlocked currently, but I do remember at least 2 of them from my childhood. The Monkey Ball Monkey, and Knights from Knights. No idea who the last one was, although I think her name was La La La? Each character has their own stats, specialized attacks, and specialized extreme gear that affect their gameplay. For the most part, it doesn't seem as though the stats of the character really affect how they race, besides their base type, which can fall into one of 3 categories: speed, flying, or power. But the extreme gear definitely does. Though I can't play tanks, like, at all, for some reason. His levels were really hard for me. The biggest difference between this game and other racing games is the use of air. To jump, to boost, or even to ride your extreme gear cost you air, which you can do tricks or stop at a pit stop to regain, though a pit stop is basically worthless and seems to just slow you down more than anything. This gives a sense of distress to the gameplay, which actually makes you stop and think about whether or not you should boost one more time, or if that will inadvertently lead to a loss. This mechanic becomes even more interesting if you play the team race mode, where you and a partner both share air and have to stay relatively close to one another. If you'd like to see me and Jackie try most of the game modes and fail miserably, make sure to check out our Let's Play of Sonic Riders. I'll leave a link down below. Speaking of our failures, most of them come from one issue that the game has. The controls are extremely sensitive. Like, extremely sensitive. The slightest button press or tilt of the joystick can send you careening off the nearest edge, missing your next trick, or right into the nearest wall. Sometimes, you'll even do all 3 in the span of seconds. Along with the sensitive controls, the game also suffers from effects that the PlayStation 2 can't quite handle. I'm not sure if the GameCube and the Xbox versions also had these issues, but some of the visual and particle effects lag the game down horribly. So after all that, is the game worth beating? Well, yeah, kinda. It's definitely not a game that I would recommend completing in one session, but it is the type of game that you can come back to over and over again when you've got maybe a half hour or so to waste. Getting and trying out new gears is really fun, playing with new characters and seeing their skater punk designs, except for Amy, is fun, and even trying out different challenge modes can be a lot of fun. So overall, I'd give this spin-off a score of a hedgehog on a skateboard. It's kind of neat to look at for a bit. You can't really take your eyes away. But if you keep looking, there's really nothing else gonna happen. But who cares? You took like 50 pictures of a hedgehog on a skateboard. Also, supposedly you can unlock Supersonic somehow? Meh. Hey guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you liked the video. If you did, hit the like button, and leave me a message down below and tell me what spin-off game you want us to cover next. Got a lot of ideas in store, and hopefully you'll all join us for those. Thanks guys, see you later.